This changes everything for the Boston Celtics as we saw them have a big time step up from a player who rarely steps on the court, ladies and gentlemen. Someone who's mentioned in trade rumors left and right, and he was the main difference, the main focal point for the reason the Celtics were able to get this W and was able to stand out in Joe Mazzulla's defense. That is right. Jaden Springer changed everything for the Boston Celtics in their victory tonight versus the Los Angeles Clippers. And we're going to be breaking down and looking at all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. You guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support on the channel. As you know, Celtics just went to a late overtime thriller, and we're here to break it down for all of you guys. If you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this team, post-game videos, weekly lives like we have today, diving in and exploring this team at all hours of the wee night, this is the place for you as we get the Celtics content for you ASAP. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date, let that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. But without further ado, let's dive in and let's get into it, as this was absolutely fantastic to see. As like I mentioned, a trade candidate in Jaden Springer, someone's name who has been tossed around since the start of this season, not only in the Celtics stratosphere, but also on this channel, as he has a tradable contract, was finally gifted the time to shine. And earlier in our weekly live stream, I was looking at this little Western Conference road trip and looked back just to 1 year ago where the Celtics went similar on a Western Conference road trip around this time of year. And they saw a big improvement from Namish Keita, who was able to insert himself into this Celtics lineup without Kristaps Porziņģis and out Luke Kornet, and really able to stand out and really blossom to give Celtics fans the hope that he could be a standout player. Keita was then gifted that final roster spot for the end of the season, and I had a feeling that we could possibly see that once again with this Celtics team on this Western Conference road trip. With no Jrue Holiday, with no Al Horford, with no Kristaps Porziņģis, somebody would step up. But if I were to tell you that it would have been Jaden Springer, I would have been absolutely wrong. I had no idea that a player like Jaden Springer would be able to turn up like this for the Boston Celtics, but like I said, he made the most impactful impact tonight for this Celtics team defensively for this squad. Like we said, Celtics went to overtime versus the Los Angeles Clippers in a tight race. In this game, the Celtics were battling back and forth. The Clippers had no main real starters here. No Norman Powell, no Kawhi Leonard, no Ivica Zubac, no Chris Dunn, no other players as well, but they were able to hold in, they were able to stay put and combat with the Celtics team, with guys like Derrick Jones Jr. dropping 17 points in the first quarter and just absolutely going off. Kevin Porter Jr. dropping 13 points in the third quarter alone. Amir Coffey hitting shots left and right, but unfortunately, Bones Highland hitting threes. Kobe Brown playing small ball big, and that's what really hindered this Celtics team. But like I mentioned, they were able to step up and come through together today as a team with the help of Jaden Springer, as he was the solvent piece amongst many others. We did see Jordan Walsh get some impact plays, hit a big time three. We saw Keita look good on the stat sheet, look a little lost on defense, but him and Luke Kornet both had stints tonight where they were impressive as well. Baylor Shireman got an early call off the bench. Jaylen Brown was very effective for this team offensively early on, but late game was obviously messing up with some things turnover-wise and almost cost this game for the Celtics, leading into overtime and even in overtime. Derrick White came back once again, being as a clutch three-point shooter is, finding those threes in his pocket. And Sam Hauser, ladies and gentlemen, was that dog tonight. 5 3-pointers for Sam, was a little bit more effective here in the first half. I believe he only had 1 3-pointer in that second half, but the Celtics weren't really relying on that offense to really keep them going. They were relying on that defense in the second half, because like I mentioned, Jaden Springer was that dog. He was that main difference maker for this Celtics team. And if we want to look at a tweet courtesy of Bobby Manning, which I said thank you to Bobby for letting us know about this, it was a 78-75 Clippers lead when Springer checked in. The Celtics at this point, before overtime had started, went on a 26-17 Celtics run since then, in which the Clippers were 7 for 23 from the field with 9 turnovers. And not only was Jaden Springer helping out on forcing those turnovers, as he was a dog on the defensive side, being able to get 4 steals for this Celtics team. But every time he was fighting for an offensive rebound, he was trying to get his hand on the ball and was able to get those disruptions and tips to kind of mess up with this Clippers team in trying to be able to get those second chance points. Springer was showing that energy that Celtics fans have been wanting to see off this bench. And Springer has been notoriously known for bringing this energy off the bench immediately as an impact player. We've seen it through his, little stints here and there with his 4 minutes, 5 minutes of play. He does maintain that stay ready movement. He is very, very solid on that defensive side and really takes into characteristics on taking on those teams' best scorers. And like last season, I saw him take on DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls and lock him up. We saw him do that similarly this season with the Bulls, with players like Zach LaVine this year. And we've even seen him do it once again versus this Clippers team, really shutting down Kevin Porter Jr. in this second half. Once Jaden Springer was switched on to Kevin Porter Jr., it was a lockdown island for Springer. But not only was he able to do that, but he was also able to hit some clutch shots as he made 2 threes for the Boston Celtics, even hitting the dagger in overtime to really send it over. Obviously, Namish Keita got the final points for the Boston Celtics, but Jaden Springer was very effective, hitting some big-time threes as well. He did airball one, but once again, came up clutch when it mattered most for this Celtics team. And like I said, this kind of changes everything for this Celtics team. As like I mentioned, they'd be interested in possibly moving a player in Jaden Springer, getting closer and closer to the trade deadline, as he made around $4 million. He wasn't getting that much actual run with this Celtics squad, even when players like Jrue Holiday or Derrick White were out. Other players like Drew Peterson had seen a little bit of a step-up role, but tonight we got to see Jaden Springer get to make his impact role and have the game which is going to be deemed as the Jaden Springer game. But now the ultimate option really comes down to the Boston Celtics, and what are they realistically going to do here? Are they going to continue to play Jaden Springer through this Western Conference road trip, try to figure out how much of a benefactor piece he can be for this team, either offensively, defensively, and try to find a role for Springer? Or are they using this next couple of games to build a little bit of trade stock up for Springer so they're able to move off of that $4 million contract while also giving him a beneficial spot? Ultimately, I would love to see Springer on this team. He has draft comparisons of a guy like Marcus Smart, who is my favorite Boston Celtics player, and guys like Sam Cassell, who is the head assistant coach on the Celtics team, loved Springer when he was one of the assistant coaches over on the 76ers, that he made Joe Mazzulla go and get a move for Springer because he knew he was a guy that he liked. He was a guy that knew that the Sixers didn't realistically want for the long term and knew he would be a perfect fit for the Mazzulla type of archetype in offense and defense. Ultimately, I do believe that Springer, if was given the opportunity, would thrive in Boston. But necessarily with the team going to contention for championships and possibly needing another move on the edge, he could be that disposable piece. But at this very moment, from what I just saw from Jaden Springer, I would not trade him. I would believe in him. I would give him that offensive work because we've seen this similarly with the guys on the Celtics team like Romeo Langford, like Aaron Nesmith, where unfortunately for Langford, he didn't pan out. But for Nesmith, he was able to find that offensive identity over in Indiana and really thrive in that role. And I think that Springer necessarily needs that with this Celtics team, either regardless if it's in Boston or with another team. But if Boston is willing to give him that role, if he can be that little energy guy coming off the bench to be that aggressive defender, similar to what O'Shea Brissett could do last season at the front court, but be that disruptive defender for the Celtics at the guard position, I would absolutely love it. Having him play in alongside guys like Peyton Pritchard, Jrue Holiday, and Derrick White. Specifically, if a guy like Jrue or Derrick is out, a guy like Springer could really take that workload defensively and really step up for this team when it matters most. I want to give a shout out to my boy Sam LaFrance of How About Them Celtics, as he has been a huge Jaden Springer fan, and I know tonight definitely made his night, even if he had to stay up till 1 in the morning to obviously watch his guy ball out. But like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic, and Jaden Springer in this game really turned some heads and ultimately really could have changed my perspective as him on him as well. Like I said, I've been a believer in Springer. I've really realistically liked him, and I think he's deserved this opportunity, even though he's fallen in the Celtics rotation. And ultimately, even if I have talked about possible trades to help out the Celtics team, I would love to see Springer find his true potential on this team. But ultimately, as an NBA fan. I want the best for these players. So if it does result him getting moved to have his best potential be brought out of him, I also wish that the best for Jaden Springer, as he, I think, can be one of the better talented defensive guards across the NBA. And if he does build an offensive game, could realistically mold into one of those top tier guys that teams around the league are really vying for. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section, how you guys ultimately feel about Jaden Springer and how this ultimately changes the Celtics as they gear up for the trade deadline. Maybe Springer isn't a tradable asset anymore. Like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your night if you are watching this as it's dropping. If you're watching in the morning, I don't blame you. Once again, I really do appreciate you, and peace out, y'all.